So to start things off, I recorded the drums for this track by using my Roland TD9 V-Drum kit connected to my computer to trigger the sounds in TuneTrack's Superior Drummer 2. I've been using this method of recording drums for several years now, and I've found that it allows us a whole lot of great musical options in addition to added flexibility. I'll always choose a tempo to begin with that feels as right for the song as I can, but being as how this is only using MIDI data to trigger recorded sounds, we always have the flexibility to adjust the tempo after recording with absolutely no sonic degradation. Now, admittedly, playing a V-kit is definitely a very different experience to playing an acoustic drum kit. However, once you get used to it, the ease of use and the amount of customization becomes apparent. Another thing that I like about this method is that I can actually write and record the drum parts in stages, such as getting the first verse done and then moving on to the first chorus and then moving on to the bridge, etc. I find that by moving through the song this way results in more of a stream of consciousness drum part. By not memorizing the whole thing and then playing it, I inevitably put random idiosyncrasies into the performance, which I probably wouldn't end up with otherwise. Of course, if I don't like these, I can go in and edit it to my heart's content after the fact. Which brings me to the editing process. One of the biggest common pitfalls with sequence drums is the lack of human feel. Now, as a drummer, I'm very aware of the physical habits I have when I'm behind the kit. Like when a tough fill's coming up, I tend to rush into it. When I flam, I almost always lead with my right hand, etc. So when I'm editing my performances, I leave those things if they're in there, and if for some reason they aren't, due to sloppy playing or maybe mistriggering, I'll often add them in. Finding your personal voice and preferences as a drummer or a programmer is very critical to imparting your own feel into the music. In order to speed up the process of getting things close, Studio One has a humanize feature in the quantize panel, along with a humanize less feature if the default amount of randomness added is too strong for you. I personally think they really nailed the amount of this setting, so 9 times out of 10, I'll quantize my straightforward kicks and snares and hi-hats to 100%, and then apply the humanize to those, which results in a strong backbeat that still feels natural. I go over all of the fills and flams manually in order to make sure they're accented and timed exactly the way I want to hear them. Onto the sonics, Superior Drummer and most drum software sample sets these days make it very easy to audition and switch out kit pieces on the fly, so I'll spend some time experimenting to find the right drum kit for the song. This software has excellent control over all the individual microphones and which drums bleed into them, so if I want a very natural, organic sound like I did on this song, I'll make sure to engage all the mics and all the drum bleed into them. Let's take a quick listen to the same passage with and without the drum bleed engaged so you can hear how that adds up. If I'm doing a really big rock production, I'll go into the snare top mic, the inside kick mic, and the tom mics, and I'll turn all the bleed off of those. So if I want to really compress those particular drums a lot in order to get them to cut through the mix, so the compressor won't bring up all the cymbals and drum bleed that happens between those hits. With an acoustic drum kit, we use noise gates and expanders to do this. However, the sample method removes all external bleed 100%, or less if you prefer, which is physically impossible with an acoustic kit. So that's a pretty great feature of working this way as well. While for this song, I only used the TuneTrack Indie EasyX drum kit, for certain productions, in order to get that larger-than-life sound, I'll take the kick and or the snare MIDI data, duplicate it to a new track, and assign that to a different drum kit altogether. As an example, for Never Ending, a song by TJ Courtney that I produced, I used Superior for the main kit and then added Steven Slate's drums on top of the kick and the snare. The Slate drums in general are very punchy, and I find that they sound great in conjunction with the often more roomy Superior kits. So, as you can hear in this example, with only the one kit playing, the drums don't have anywhere near the impact or tonal depth as they do with both layered together. In order to find just the right combination, it's very easy to just play the song and switch the drums on the fly until you hear the full sound you want. And no time or phase aligning is generally required. Although I have found a few sample sets to occasionally have slight timing and phase issues based on how closely the samples were trimmed. So it's best to use your ears to make sure that none of that's happening. But again, this way of working still requires a whole lot less editing and problem fixing than using acoustic drums to stack parts. And once the drums are done, it's literally a one-button press to export all of this MIDI data to discrete audio files for editing and processing in the project. And if it so happens that later on in the production we find our drum choices aren't working out, we can just pull this MIDI file back up and alter any aspect we'd like. And again, this is such a great creative option to continue to have all the way down the line of your production. And that wraps up our overview of drum sequencing and programming. We'll see you in the next video where we'll be taking a look at the guitar, mandolin, and bass recording. Thanks for watching.